Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am reviewing The Ancient Near East by Amanda Podany, and this is part of the very short introduction series that I really enjoy, where an author is tasked to take a topic and provide as advertised, a very brief introduction to the topic in very few pages. And Amanda Podany covers the ancient Near East, so this ties in with my ongoing interest in Mesopotamia. I really like this book, so I wanted to talk about what you can expect if you get this book, what I liked about it, and the layout of it. So if you choose to get it, you know what to expect. And as always, if you have any thoughts or comments on this book or on the topic, please leave it in the comment section down below. So we're already biting off a lot with the ancient Near East, a very short introduction, but the time period the author is covering is 3600 BC to 539 BC. So this is a massive scale, and you have to wonder how the author would approach this topic. I have to imagine in these very short introductions, there are some guidelines the publisher puts out, but the author's kind of left to their own interpretation on how they want to approach the topic. So I was intrigued on how the author was going to approach this topic, and what she does is she uses cuneiform text and the advent of writing to guide her process. So she breaks up the ancient Near East into big time chunks, not very granular, obviously, just broad buckets, and then she utilizes a couple texts that have been found to illustrate what's going on. I really like this, and I found it quite effective because writing is really what separates prehistory from history. Once we have a written account, things become much more things are brought to light. We have a written account of history and human history from the people who lived it. We're not reconstructing it from things like archaeology or bones or stuff like that. So this writing and this advance of writing that occurred in Mesopotamia is really one of the shifting points between this prehistory and then the history that continued once we had the written record. And so using that very important key advancement writing to highlight what happened in each period, for me, was quite an effective way to do it. Plus, it gave little snippets and insights into what was occurring in this region at this time. So I really liked it. The breakdown are as follows. I just want to give you a list of what was talked about. So she first starts with archaeology and the environment, and this is just to give the readers a review of where we are, what we're talking about, and things that have been found, as well as ways in which previous generations went about digging and excavating regions, which have led to some lost data. Then we have 3600 to 2900, which is the beginning of cities. Then we move 2900 to 2300, early dynastic period, 2300 to 2100, Akkadian Empire, 2100 to 2000, third dynasty of Ur. Then we have the old Assyrian colonies, 1900 to 1700, I'm rounding here. Old Babylonian period, 2000 to 1595 BC. Late Bronze Age, 1595 to 1100. Neo-Assyrian, 972 to 612, and then Neo-Babylonian, 612 to 539. So as you can tell, we're taking very big buckets from the region, and in there she pulls a couple texts, and this is also interspersed with some pictures, and describes what's happening, what's going on, and how the text relates to what was occurring in this region. There's also a lot of clear maps, which I can really appreciate, because I think for those of us not as familiar with this part of the world, the maps are very helpful. So obviously we're really just hitting the high level in this book, but the author somehow manages to make it flow really nicely. The flow is really clear and it makes sense, and that brings a lot to the book, because it could be very dry, it just could be a dusty recitation of facts, but the author works in the text really clearly with what we're discussing in the book. And so I think the flow is really good, and you feel like you're kind of gleaning stuff, even though you're of course hitting things at a very high level. You still feel like you're learning something throughout it, and you don't feel like you're rushing, even though you know that based on these time frames, you truly are rushing through the data. So I think the author did a really good job, given the massive time frame she had to work with, to narrow down to the most important parts, to pull out relevant text, and to combine it all in a fantastic introduction. So if you have never read anything on Mesopotamian history, the ancient Near East would probably be a very good place to start. You could figure out which of the buckets that she talks about is most interesting to you, and then you could dive further in additional reading. If you like this book, I have two other book reviews on my channel that might be interesting to you. First is Inanna, Lady of the Largest Heart. This was a book of poems or some hymns that were written by Enheduanna, one of the first authors mentioned in history. And that text is actually referenced in this book, and I read a review of the whole text, or I reviewed and read the whole text on my channel under that name, Inanna, Lady of the Largest Heart. And if you like the early history, you can check out my review of the Sumerians by Samuel Noah Kramer, which was a very, very fantastic, thorough introduction to the group of people and their history and their culture. That review is also on my channel. Please let me know what you thought of this book or this topic. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.